Welcome to our financial panel. Everyone is busy, and we want to thank our panelists for participating in tonight's financial forum, Framing Your Financial Future. My name is Susan Strauss with the Arlington Commission on the Status of Women. I'd like to introduce Meg Casillo of AAUW and thank Arlene Daly of Links and Tanika Tunzen and Patricia Hine of Maryland Center for Optimal Aging, the host of tonight's forum, and especially all of you for choosing to join us both in person and virtually. Now I'd like to introduce briefly Dr. Julie Reese to say a few words about the Center for Optimal Aging.
Hi. So I'm here representing Patricia Hine and the Center for Optimal Aging here at Marymount University. We're thrilled to be co-sponsoring this event, and I'm really excited to have you here. The Center for Optimal Aging is an academic hub designed to really foresee the future of optimal aging for all, and we're involved in research activities, educational activities, advocacy. We invite you to take a flyer or go to our website to learn all about us, but I don't want to take any time away from our exciting work that is going to be done here tonight. So thank you all for coming, and we're really excited to sponsor this event.
Now we can begin with the book. Change is the only constant. Women have been and continue to be pivotal in building and managing a stronger future for themselves and their families. What is the why behind tonight's panel? To begin to think more critically about what you can change to be a financially literate thinker.
Turn off the volume.
Whether you are creating a budget,
On the computer.
expanding savings, investing, or approaching or in retirement, one needs to anticipate the unexpected. It isn't easy to make course corrections or to become financially savvy overnight. But our four panelists can prompt you to ask the right questions for prioritizing your financial goals. When women know their value, we all benefit. We are fortunate to have as panelists Ann Summerson at the end, Director and Certified Financial Planner with the Wise Investor Group of Raymond James, Karen Rosales, President and CEO of the Arlington Community Federal Credit Union, Tara Palacios, Director of BizLaunch, Arlington Economic Development Small Business Assistance Program, and lastly, Ayesha Salazar, Associate Extension Agent for Family and Consumer Science at Virginia Tech Extension Services. Okay.
So, we're delighted to have everybody here. And on Zoom land, I know that we have a number of folks who are watching in from home. So we are going to go through this evening learning a lot. And at the end of the four presentations, we will have an opportunity for questions. So maybe jot them down if you're like me and you're burning to ask a question at the moment and you forget about it 5 minutes later. So keep a list of the things you'd like to ask. But we're going to go through our speakers and have them share their information, PowerPoints and narratives so that we all get the same basic broad view. And we're going to start with Ann, who is my financial planner. So
It's true.
I trust her. I know, right?
Yes.
And Ann's going to get us off with her information. So, Ann,
Thanks.
and here it is.
And I think we're going to start with, very good. Okay, great. I am Ann Summerson. I'm a certified financial planner with the Wise Investor Group of Raymond James. We're out in Reston, Virginia. And yes, Meg is a client of mine, and she asked me to do this evening. So I look out to the group here, and I see all ages. And I think that there are a lot of different financial things to focus on at different stages of life. People just starting off in their careers certainly have different priorities than people like me who are starting to think about retiring. So I thought I would just go through some different phases of life and things to think about financially during those times. So let's start off with the next slide, and that's in your 20s. Oh, closer? Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks. Hope this is better. So in your 20s, you're maybe finished with your schooling, you're in your first or second job. The biggest thing you can do for yourself at this time is to start saving and keep it up and increase the amount that you save. Do not put it off. I wish somebody had told me this when I was young, and I've loved many of my people I know my age, we say all the same thing. I wish somebody had really pointed this out to me. So where do you save? Well, you need to have an emergency fund, and an emergency fund is, so if your car breaks down or if you lose your job, you're not stuck having to put everything on a credit card. And an emergency fund is in cash, right? It's in cash. You can't say it's my mutual fund account over there. No, it's something that can't ever go down in value. CDs, money market. You want to save at your job. You probably have a 401k. Maybe you work for a nonprofit, you have a 403b. If you work for the government, you have the TSP. They're all the same. They're all tax-deferred retirement accounts. You defer some of your salary into those accounts. Even if you think you can't do it, you probably have a match coming from your employer. Do at least to the match, because that is money you're leaving on the table if you don't do it. So if you've done that and you can still save a little bit more, consider an IRA. And if you're youngish and probably not at your full earning potential yet, do a Roth IRA, because there are AGI limits on putting money in Roth IRAs. If you make too much money, you can't do it. So put the money in a Roth, and the great thing about a Roth IRA, even though you don't get a tax deduction for it, it grows tax-free. When you use the money many, many years from now, you don't pay any taxes on it when it comes out, and there aren't any of the dreaded required minimum distributions on a Roth IRA. Okay. Oh, and one thing. So I mentioned the emergency fund stays in cash. Make sure that the money that goes into your retirement accounts, make sure that you invest it. Make sure that it gets put into something, because you'll probably have a group of mutual funds to choose from. Don't just put it there. You've got to make sure it's invested. Next slide. 30s and 40s. This is when things start to get a little more complicated. Maybe you're looking to buy a house. Maybe you've gotten married, kids. You'll start to think about, oh my gosh, what happens if something happens to me or my wife or husband or partner? Life insurance comes into play. Disability insurance comes into play. Disability insurance will pay you if you become disabled and you can't work. Your income really is your biggest asset. It's not your house, it's your income. If you are having kids, you're probably thinking about how are we going to save for college? Well, luckily, 529 plans are out there now. They're really great. They're like a Roth IRA for college, because the money grows tax-free, and if you use it for college, you don't pay any taxes when you take it out. And estate planning. This is, people start to think, same thing with life insurance. What if I die? Well, yes, what if I die? We need a will. And what about guardians for the kids? So you at least want to get started on that process. Next slide. So I haven't said anything about debt, so let's talk about it right now. So you've probably heard that there's good debt and bad debt. Mortgages are considered good debt, student loans generally, bad debt, car loans, and the dreaded credit card. I would pretty much agree with that, but I would say that if you have such a big mortgage that you can't save anything, your mortgage is no longer good debt. So you need to be thoughtful about any debt that you enter into. So mortgages are fine. Some people say you should pay off your student loans before you put money in a retirement account. I disagree. I think you should get in the habit of putting money in the retirement account right from the start. You can start small, but I wouldn't, because you got to jump in at the beginning. You really, really should. Car loans, same thing. Don't overextend yourself. And credit cards, really try not to carry a balance. That's really what's gonna drag you down. I know, it's hard. I did it myself in my younger years, but really try not to carry a balance. All right, we've got 2 more stages to go. Next slide. 50s and 60s, a little later in life. This is possibly your kids are launched. These are your prime earning years. They're also your prime savings years. This is when people are starting to think, am I gonna be able to retire? Am I gonna make it? And this is the thing that you can do for yourself at this stage, if you haven't already done it, is really think about how much you spend. You really need to know how much goes out the door, because that's really what drives your financial plan as you go into retirement. When you are no longer earning, it's all about how much is going out. So you really should take a look at how much you're spending so that your plan will work in retirement. This is the time the people are thinking about, when should I take Social Security? I could do a whole seminar on Social Security strategies, which we don't have time for, but suffice it to say, the longer you wait to take Social Security, the more it will be. Some people start to think about long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance will pay for if you need help in your home, if you need assisted living, if you need to go to skilled nursing, because none of that is covered by Medicare, none of it. And this is the stage of life when people start to think about more fancy estate planning, things like living trusts. So a living trust is really just a way of titling your assets, and it just makes it easier to transfer things upon your death or upon incapacity, which is really probably more likely to happen than you just to die prematurely. So anything in a living trust really just transfers to the people per the instructions of that trust and bypasses probate. Okay, next slide. So our last stage, 70s and beyond. So hopefully at this point you've successfully retired, you've done your saving. Now you're really thinking about, okay, where do I want it to finish up? Do I want to stay in this house forever? Maybe it's got too many stairs. I personally did a downsize a couple of years ago because I was tired of all the stairs. Do you want to downsize to a smaller place? Or do you want to consider a place like a continuing care retirement community? Those places are, as opposed to what my partner's very old mother used to call death camps, they are not that. They are many of them are very, very nice places. So you could consider them. Next slide. Stay engaged and pay attention. What do I mean by that? I have a question. Where is it written that the men in the family of a couple do the grilling, take out the trash, and handle the family finances? Where is that written? Nowhere is that written. Please, you must be involved in that. If one of you wants to do the laundry and the other one wants to do the groceries, fine. But please, you both should be aware of how much you're spending, how much you're saving. Be on the same page with all of that. So many times, I've been in this business for 25 years, and the husband will come to the meeting. She's not interested in that. Don't be that person. You must know what's going on. You must stay. You could become divorced. You could become a widow. You must pay attention. Last slide. These are just 2 little things to think about. Go get your credit report at annualcreditreport.com. You can get a free one from each of the 3 credit reporting agencies. And this one is the free one, not free credit report. That's not free. Annualcreditreport.com is the free one. And everyone should go get their Social Security statement at ssa.gov. You need to get a log on for that. They used to send the reports to everybody, but everybody threw them away, so they stopped sending them. But you can get them at the website, and everybody should take a look. And I've just scratched the surface of so many things, but hopefully it made you think about your own financial plan. Thanks.
Thank you, Ann, so much. And I have some questions in my mind already. And we will, as I said, do questions when we've finished all the way across so we get the broad picture. So let's move on, and we're going to learn more about our finances from the point of view of credit union and banking.
Thank you. I also have some questions for you during the Q&A. Thanks to the commission for putting on this event and for assembling such a great panel. I'm already learning from my panelists, and I'm sure I'll learn from the rest of you. My name is Karen Rosales, and I work for the Arlington Community Credit Union. I am going to be speaking to you tonight from the lens of a traditional bank or credit union and how we can help execute these plans that Anne is talking about. And actually so much of what she spoke about is really complementary to what I'm going to be speaking about. So I don't have slides tonight, so I'm just going to have to engage you with fabulous stories. So, and I do have some stories to sort of illustrate the points that you're making, things that we see at the credit union that hopefully everybody can learn from. So we're here tonight to talk about personal financial management is essentially what you're talking about. And there's a few components to that. So I'm going to go over some of the core components and how I think a financial institution could help you with those things. It sounds basic, but it's surprisingly not, because even though these are basic concepts, you'd be surprised how often people need help navigating, and I'm sure you see this all the time. So the first thing is a budget. You talked about budgeting and spending wisely. Anyone here will tell you when you create a plan, start with a budget or start with a financial plan. It sounds simple and it sounds easy, but fewer than 40% of Americans operate with a budget. You're shaking your head over here, right? Lots of people don't have a budget, and even those that do don't really align to it. Don't reconcile to that budget on a regular basis. Okay, why is that important? I'll tell you a personal story about me and my financial planner. So I am also within a decade of retirement, and a couple years ago, she sat me down and said, do a total cash flow analysis. So I want to know what your budget is. More than a budget, what's your cash flow analysis? And she had me do it for today and then compare it to how do you think you'll be living in retirement? Simple exercise, but a very powerful one, because I was looking at expenses, and at first I'm feeling good. I'm like, oh, okay, I won't have college expenses for my kids. Hopefully I won't be paying car insurance for them. Hopefully they'll be off my cell phone plan by then. By the way, if anyone has any advice on how to get your kids off your cell phone plan, mine are in their 20s, and I haven't yet had the courage to kick them off. But so anyway, I'm looking at this thinking, okay, these expenses are going to sunset. Well, how do you want to live over here in retirement? Well, things are different, right? I will have different healthcare costs. There are other expenses, I won't have an income. So the delta between the two was kind of eye-opening, and my husband and I had a great conversation, and then it did force some conversations with our children. So it's a simple exercise, but a really important one. And I also want to encourage you to look at more than a budget, but really a cash flow analysis where you're looking at how much am I paying in taxes, how much am I paying in all of these ancillary things like, my nails and my hair and all these things that I love. And you love your nails, don't you, Taylor?
I started doing my own.
Exactly, right? So you kind of see opportunities where you can really save. So that, that's what I want to say. And so how can a financial institution help you with that? I think great financial planners will help you. They can give you great templates for how to do that. Many financial institutions have budgeting and financial counseling divisions where they can also help you do that. And so whether you are, early in life and trying to create a budget, or like me, kind of reconciling how to get to that next stage, it's really important. The next thing I wanted to talk about is building and managing credit. I agree, not all debt is bad debt, and I think even some of the traditionally bad debt, like credit cards, can be effective tools in helping you to build credit if you use them very carefully. So if you are starting out, sometimes a starter credit card, a starter loan, if you are very careful and you pay it back, can really be a very, very important part in building credit, because lenders still want to see your capacity to repay. And later, when that borrowing becomes about leveraging and building equity, you have to have that, and you need to build equity to buy a home. If you're starting a business, when you start businesses, Tara will talk about the importance of your own personal finances. So that is very important as well. There are lots of ways to build your credit. There are also lots of ways to rebuild your credit. We at the credit union see all the time people that come to us who are in a rebuilding phase because something's happened, a death, a divorce, an accident, a family emergency, something that impacts your finances, and people are devastated. They feel that they're, that I don't want to say that life is over, but it's very disturbing when your credit takes a big hit, when there's a catastrophic credit incident. I want to give anyone hope that's in that situation because it is possible and it's not that hard. It might take time and discipline, but it is so possible to rebuild your credit, and there are lots of tools to do that. There are products that can help you do that, credit builder products, and all different forms of those things. So I won't talk too much more about that because I want to move on in the conversation, but we see that a lot, and I just want to give people hope that there is a way to rebuild credit at any point in life, after any situation. Another important part of a good financial plan is, you alluded to this, is educating those around you who you may be dependent on later in life or who are dependent on you. And those things can happen in any moment. Anne talked about this. We see this a lot too, again, for all those same reasons, right? Death, divorce, an accident. Someone comes to us and thinks they're the beneficiary on an account and realizes that they're not. We have those situations. Someone is a beneficiary and didn't know they were a beneficiary and they don't know what to do with the money. We see situations where someone passes away and then the surviving spouse doesn't know where the money is. So this happened to me personally when my dad passed away. My mother knew which bank they went to. She knew which branch they went to. She didn't know he had other online accounts at USAA and other places. And I'm left scrambling, trying to, crack into his phone and figure out where the banking emails are coming from because he didn't have a neat and tidy place where all of this was recorded. There are apps out there where you can record for your family members. You don't have to tell them the passwords or the balances, but there are apps that help you record where the accounts are so that in a situation like that, you know where to access the information. Another tip, and this just speaks so loudly to what you were speaking about, right? Like the self-sufficiency of money. We had a situation, someone passed away, and the wife had credit cards in her wallet that she was using for everything and didn't realize that she was just an authorized user. And so when the spouse passed, all of the Netflix and home security charges that were coming to her credit card, Social Security reports out when someone passes, and so you don't even have to report it to the bank. They eventually become aware of that. So her cards got cut off and she was in a panic because all of her household bills were being rejected. And then she went to apply, so she had these two cards at Citibank and Chase, and not to bash the big banks, Citibank and Chase, but she had these cards at these institutions and could not then reapply because she was retired and only had Social Security income. So it's this whole thing. We were talking about this, right? You work your whole life to be retired, and then all of a sudden you don't have the income to prove that you can sustain the credit. So it was just a mess. So, things like that, it's what you're speaking to, just really be aware of the finances in your household. Also help your children. As a child trying to navigate, a grown-up adult child, but still a child, right? Trying to help my parents through that was extremely stressful, and I hope I will do something different for my kids to help them through that. And then the last thing I was going to talk about, you already spoke about, which was investing. Once you have a good financial foundation, investing is a great thing to do, and there are lots of ways to start small. Great apps out there. You can invest in stocks fractionally, you can invest in fractional real estate, you can do like sweep programs and round up and sort of invest pennies, and that's just a great tool, and lots of financial institutions can help you with those things as well. I feel like I forgot something. This is probably why I should have slides so I don't forget something, but I'll just pass it to you, Tara, and then wait for questions. Should I just pass it to her?
Just pass it,
Okay.
sure.
So, this is Tara Palacios from Biz Launch. Here we go.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so excited to be here to talk about, framing your financial future, but really looking at it from the small business perspective. We work with a number of people whose dream, no matter what age range, is to start a business. And a lot of times people are like, am I financially secure? Can I do this? Do I go friends and family, credit card? How should I go about it? And I'm here to say there is a skill to this. And I think it all complements what we're going to be saying. So we'll go to the next slide. You may be asking yourself, what is a Biz Launch? Well, it is a county-run program where we have, next one. It is a county-run, there we go, that offers a host, thank you very much. I was like, what was I trying to say? It's late off for me. A whole host of different types of activities, from marketing to helping you design strategy, building your business. We have directories. We have an open rewards program where when you shop local, we reward you. All kinds of stuff. And the good thing is, it's that good four-letter word, which is free. You don't have to pay for it. Yay! We go to the next slide. And then I have a lot of nice friends that are with me. Prakriti is here with us this evening, and she does a lot of our market research and works with our small businesses. But Alex, Lourdes, and Yakin are part of our team, including myself. And I am here to tell you, for the next slide, that we have a brand new tool that we've just launched within the last 6 months, and it's called Open Grants. And basically, if you're a small business, if you're a nonprofit or other organization, you can go to this website, create a dashboard, and look for grants either for your small business or for your nonprofit organization or individually. If you're working on an art project or you're trying to make something, and it gets even cooler in that there's someone that can help you respond to these grants as well. So, and for free. Did I say free before? For free. And what we love about it is that it really helps you navigate and look for industry-specific funds that are available across the country to help you achieve goals as we go through the next few slides, and you can see exactly what you need to do. So I was thinking about all of the people. We've hit over the years, over 70,000 people have come through Biz Launch's doors. And when I think of financial planning, I think a lot of people have a wish attitude. And I want to take the wish attitude and knock that out and make it a feasible, executionable, can't really talk to me, means of being able to get to your financial goals. And how do you do that? And I thought of 8 different things, really salient. I think even if you start a business or don't start a business, they're all really things that you could leave with that will be helpful for you. So the first one is research and do your homework. Really understand your industry, understand how much things cost, be very realistic. And whatever number that you're thinking about, you want to make sure that it's specific to your industry. And there's information out there that will help you with numbers, statistics, and goals. Which leads me to really understanding, and I think both Anne and Karen described this, understand what those costs are. When you're doing a cash flow analysis for yourself, not only do you want to look at the fixed costs that you pay every month, but those soft fun costs like social media, paying for TikTok ads, things that we like to do, that do we really need to do them? But if we were, how much are they? And to really have that as part of your plan. One thing, I'm still on number 3, I'm sorry. One thing that you'll need to do is make sure that you build relationships with your financial institution. Really know them. Have them know your name. Have them understand what your product and service is. Because you never know. You always go after money when you don't need it. Because when you need it, people look at you like, what you need that money for? right? So when you go to them and they understand your product, I think a good example is our friends at Pupatella. Met them a long time ago. Y'all remember they were out at Walmart Square with their cart, right? And I said, oh my God, you need to move your bag. Have them eat your pizza, right? Because their long-term goal was they wanted a brick and mortar location. Well, how do you go from a stationary cart to being able to get a lease, and then once you get that, you gotta do build out, y'all, and that's expensive, okay? And so you feed them pizza. And so that's what they did. And then they could see that the line was there, they could smell it, food is very visual, but it's also, you've got that pizza smell, and then they added beignets at one point. Come on now. And so what they did was when it was time for them 2 years later to go for the loan, they had proven and they had witnessed through the financial institution. So these are like some things that you can do, and I think we as people, we're, financing and accounting and all that is like, whoa. But it's all about relationships and people knowing your name and understanding you. I think that's really key. Now, number 4 is something that I do all the time. Do not spend money unless you absolutely have to, y'all. Don't spend money. Think low-hanging fruit, especially as a business. When I talk to a lot of business people, they think, oh, if I throw money at it, it'll go away. That's not necessarily always the case. Because that means you're throwing good money, but what is your return on investment? So being really wise about the process, think low-hanging fruit. If you're not spending money, then all you're doing is making money. And how is that bad? Right? Because that return on investment is that much higher. So if you can do some of these things, and it'll help you to grow, and think simple, not complex. Especially when it comes to business. Because when you think complex, it makes things much harder. But if you think very simply, I need to move from A to B, and that doesn't mean because A is doing well, I need to do B, C, D, and E. How many people know businesses that opened up too many locations and they failed? They stretched too thin, they didn't have all that money, and Elon Musk and others, they don't have enough money to do what they need to do. Okay, go into 5. Because you want to be really smart about that. Establish a rainy day fund. One thing that Americans don't do is save money. I think we've got a common theme, right? Save money for when something bad happens, you don't have to sweat. I don't like to sweat, don't like it, and I don't want y'all sweating. Pandemic caused a lot of sweating, and when the PPP came, you sweated even more. Don't want that. Have at least 6 months to a year in savings, so if something were to happen, you don't have to sweat, y'all. Remember that. Have that visualization. Also, number 6, build a community of advisors. People that you can call on to that can help you think through a situation. As an entrepreneur, it can be lonely at times, but look, if you got friends that you really trust and that you care about, that you can go to for a very complex, hey, this is going on, I have this opportunity, I don't have enough funds, and then they'll be able to kind of help you think it through, or they may invest in you themselves. A lot of people, a lot of folks that you surround yourself with. So I definitely think building that community of advisors, that could be people that understand the legal aspects of your industry, financing, as well as accounting. And then in these days and times, number 7, there's a lot of creative funds that you can use, from Indiegogo to Kickstarter that can help you to get started, friends and family. But with all of this, you'll want to plan. You want to understand that if you're going to do a campaign, what are all the things that you need to do before you jump in? Because you could get yourself in trouble if you're doing a lot of investment, think low-hanging fruit, and you don't see the return. Everything is about, if I do X and Y, what am I going to get back in the long term? And then number 8, question everything. Don't let things just happen. Don't let you just go along with the way the water is going. No, really understand what it is that you're getting into. If you're signing a contract, if you're signing on to a loan, know what the interest rate is, know when you pay that off have a big party afterwards, but really understand what you are contractually obligated to. And so with that, those are my 8 tips. I wanted to run through those, but if anyone has any questions, I've seen a number of businesses be very successful here in the county, and I think the biggest differentiator between those that are successful and those that aren't is the planning aspect and understanding, and if something untoward that would happen, being able to fall into a loan fund, call on to other friends, and be able to plan for it. That really will differentiate between success and failure. And so thank you all. That's my business stuff. So
Go ahead, Amy.
So my name is Alicia Salazar. I'm with Virginia Cooperative Extension, and Virginia Cooperative Extension is part of Virginia Tech and Virginia State Universities. As extension agents, we do outreach education in the community, and I work with National Financial Education volunteers to educate Arlingtonians and Alexandria residents. Go to the start of the slides. We'll talk a little bit about common financial pitfalls. Great, thank you. So some of these have already been discussed. So if they've been mentioned, I'm just going to mention them briefly and then move on to something else. But some of these are very important, and we're all repeating them for a reason because they are very common. And these are things that when I pulled some of our extension agents across the state, things that I've seen or our volunteers have seen, or things that comes up in research time and time after another. If we go to the next slide, please. So one of them is the lack of knowledge and awareness about family finances. We talked about that before. I've seen it within my larger extended family where some of the women don't know what's going on, don't care to know. And I tell them down the road, you really want to know. Financial stability after changes in relationships, divorce or death of the spouse, same thing. You want to make sure that you're aware of your finances. Women tend to outlive their spouses, so you have to think long term. For women in abusive situations, money is usually one thing that's being controlled. It is often a reason for staying in that relationship. Let's go on to the next slide. Lack of financial confidence. So women are less likely to negotiate their salaries. They're less likely to make financial investments. It's not for, sometimes it's a lack of awareness, sometimes it's just, they lack that extra oomph. And so some of these women up here, they are here to give you that encouragement and that empowerment. Sometimes you delay investing just because you don't know. You feel like you don't know enough, and just knowing a little bit is enough. Just try to start. And I can speak from experience. I didn't invest when I was young. I was good at saving, but didn't know much about the investing side. And it's pretty common. Lack of emergency savings. We talked about this again. Anything from loss of employment to medical expenses. Medical expenses are huge and cause a lot of debt. Home repairs, vehicle repairs, anything like that. From experience, I can tell you in my mid-20s, within a month, I lost my job, I got in a car accident, and I had to find a new place to live. And luckily my boyfriend is now my husband, who's supporting me. But it was a tough time, and I had savings, and so I was able to live off of that. But I was in grad school, I was transitioning from one job to the next. I worked part-time, I took care of my grandmother, and it was tough. Yeah. So just speaking from experience, you have to be aware of these things. And then that work-life balance. There is a lot of, I see a lot of women that, those who manage their households don't get paid for the value that they bring to the household. So there's that huge factor. You're not being paid for managing the household. And then when you try to find a job, how do you convey that experience that you have and getting paid for it and getting the money that you're worth? Balancing those work-life ambitions. I've seen people debate their own career choices and over family time. I've seen women choosing certain career tracks in their fields and withholding applying for jobs because of those family commitments. So these are issues that are common in women's lives. Go to the next slide. Earning gaps. We talked about this as well. Women are most often caregivers at some point in their life, either young children or caring for older adults on the road. And so this, causes a lot of issues. let's see, I had some facts, but I'm just gonna skip over those. Neglecting to invest in themselves. We talked about this as well. And then establishing retirement after re-entering the workforce. So sometimes people don't consider themselves first. Always pay yourself first. And then investing too much for your children's education and not having enough sufficient retirement for yourself. As caretakers, you care for others and you always put yourself last. So try not to make that mistake if you can. Next slide. A little bit on identity theft. I just want to touch on this. It used to be that women actually were largely affected more by identity theft than males. Men are catching up a little bit in that. But they're about equal, I believe, within identity theft right now. The ages of 30 to 39 is where most women or individuals are most likely to get their identity stolen. After that is in their 40s. And then often the offender can be a family member or a coworker, including our attorney. And that's something that sometimes people don't realize. And it's tough when you're going through that. I know one of our volunteers gave a class at a senior center recently and on identity theft, and the number one question was, I think I'm being taken advantage of. I think somebody is taking my finances without me knowing. So now we're considering going back and doing another class about, okay, what can you do? Credit card fraud as well. You gotta look out for that. It's very common that people take advantage of you. And just keep an eye on that as well. The next slide talks a little bit more about prevention. This is just a brief overview. And these are not all the tips that are out there, but just the main things like checking your statements, running your credit reports. The annualcreditreport.com website is a great resource. Try to get on the do not call list, use two-factor identification, and then shred any papers with any information on them. Even those credit card announcements or flyers that you get saying that like you've been certified or something, shred those. Go to identitytheft.gov if you have had issues, and then try to set fraud alerts or freeze your credit if you can. Next slide, a little bit about talking about how to teach youth about money. Your first lessons learned are within the household, and this is a quote that I saw that I thought was great. Security and love are not always connected to money. So trying to make that, establish that early on is really important. Start teaching your children about money as soon as you can, and as they start asking for things. Talking to them about wants and needs is very important, and that's something we do through all ages when we're working out in the community. And adapt things to be age appropriate. You're not going to talk about serious, high level things to young children, but you can adapt it and talk to them in different manners. And this is another quote, and I'm sorry, I forgot to put down who the quotes are coming from. I believe it was Colorado Extension. The more age appropriate practices a child has with money and decisions about spending, the more they will be effective money managers. So start early. There has been a little bit of debate about what to start, but they learn early, they learn from you, so keep that in mind. Okay? Your habits matter, whether or not you debate about them at home, how you spend your money, kids pick up on that. Next slide. Different ages that you can talk to youth about money. These are just some examples of things that you can do with them. Preschool age, money can be used for trading, playing, the store, or like, looking at coins when you travel even, things like that. With elementary schoolers, talking to them about savings, entrepreneurship, lemonade stands, make it fun. When you go to the grocery store, talk about budgeting. You're always gonna have a child when you go to the store that says, "Mommy, I want that," or "Daddy, I want that." Talk to them about like why we don't buy things or why we need to hold back some of the money. Allowance. Some people do this, some people don't, but an allowance is also another good way to talk to people about money and show children how they can save their money. Using crafts, games, and making it fun. Any way that you incorporate math skills, reading skills, anything like that into this will make it educational for them as well. And then with teens, you talk to them about a variety of things. We're doing a workshop with some teens at the Arlington Tech, and we've talked about almost all of these topics with them. And so now we're going to work with other cohorts to talk about some of these topics. It's never too young. Some of them have some great questions. You know a lot. There's a lot of information out there, especially on social media. So you want to catch that misinformation early on. And that was all I had. Thanks.
You have a mic. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. I was taking notes. In my old age, I've learned so much tonight too. So, or I've realized things I didn't do right in my young age. So, all of that is important, but each of you shared or expanded on something that is just, the basic of save, know what you're doing, invest, and talk to your partner, work together. So all of those and so many more ideas came out of tonight. So we have a couple of questions to get ourselves going, and then we will ask for folks who are physically here, and we will have an opportunity for folks on Zoom to be able to ask their questions as well. So hang with us as we go through. But just to get us started, this is just a big picture question. Okay, what do you see in the nearish future about the financial situation? Are we going to see interest rates jumping, falling, anything major that we can expect or predict or be careful about? Who wants to answer?
You're the one that works for the bank.
Well, that's a crystal ball question.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
nobody
well-
knows what the Federal Reserve is going to do. I don't think they even know sometimes what they're going to do. This is the answer you're looking for. We thought the Federal Reserve was near the end of the rate hike cycle. The talk up until the latest economic data was released was that the Fed was going to either pause the interest rate hikes or just skip this next month. The data that was released indicates that, as Tara said, consumers are spending. So consumers are continuing to spend, so inflation is just not coming down as fast as we want it to. I think we all got tired of being cooped up during the pandemic. We were spending. We like it. We like spending. Spending is pretty much at a pre-pandemic high across the country, and we see that same data at the credit union. Savings is at an all-time low, and we see that across the country, and we also see that at the credit union. So something has to give, right? So I'm not going to make a rate prediction. I think the economists are saying that the Fed should hike at this next meeting next week, but the economists are also saying that they won't. Your question is, what can we expect from the financial future, in the near-term financial future? Things are still going to be expensive, right? So salaries have not really kept pace with inflation, although wage increases did make up some ground. Inflation is still outpacing salaries, so it's cutting into our paychecks. It's cutting into everyone's paychecks. So I think for the foreseeable future, for the next year at least, stuff will still be expensive. Life will be expensive, and the cautionary tale there is that we have to think about things like doing our nails ourselves and things like that too, because stuff is going to continue to be expensive. So I don't know, you want to talk about the business climate a little bit?
Yeah.
It's interesting because we've been framing it as new normal for a very long time. The era of grant, let me just state this, but don't quote me. The era
It's being recorded.
of grant-free money is no longer, y'all. And so but the cost of doing business is much more expensive. So if there is a goal or if there's something that you want to do, shop around, look for the best rates, don't settle. I love me some credit unions, because they're nonprofit.
Not for profit.
Not for profit, let me say that, not for profit.
Okay.
They're not gonna charge you like market rate, which is really high. And so I think for businesses to be really, really competitive and make lists and shop things around, get the best rates, but also know that the cost of doing business is going to be high for the foreseeable future. That's what I would look at.
Agreed.
Okay, so be cautious. All right. The next question is, maybe, I'm not sure, Ann, might be you. So we talked about some partners in relationships not knowing the financial situation that their union is in. So what should a person know about a potential partner's financial views?
That's an Ann question.
I hear of I have a friend whose sister just lost $300,000 because she got into a romantic relationship with someone at 75 or 80, and he said he's needed money for his child, blah, blah, blah. So, what are some tips for going, if you are interested in a person at 20 or 40 or 80, that you should be aware of going into a relationship?
Dear Abby.
Oh, boy. Well, I think partnering with someone who views money and finance similarly is what you should be looking for. I have clients who've been long married, but the husband is like more of a live for today kind of guy. It's like, I might not make it to 90. I'm and have fun now. And his wife, she tells me on the side, he doesn't know about it, but she's got like 300 grand stashed somewhere because she knows that he would spend it if he knew about it. So now, again, they're happily married. It works for them. But, well, they've been clients for a long time, and I've watched this over the years. But you want to have you want to look at it the same way, and you really can't put your head in the sand. You cannot do that. So many times the wife handles the checkbook, but it's the husband that handles the investments. And that's just old-fashioned and not helpful. So,
Bottom line. Anybody else? Why don't you use your mic?
So we actually, that's one of the things we talked to our financial officers about, is talking about like how you have these family discussions. So you want to, like Ann said, be on the same page with the person. I know personally, when things start getting serious, I consider any type of moving in together, anything like that. Before you'll pick up on things along the way too, like when you go out to dinner or things like that, how things are being, money's being spent. So have those discussions. Before you commit into anything serious, talk about long-term planning too. How many children? Who's going to take care of the children? What if somebody loses their job? What are you going to do? Who's going to take care of what? So have those discussions. They're not the easiest discussions to have, but they're important. And we see a lot in our classes. We see a lot more women attending our classes who sometimes they don't. They might not be in charge of finances themselves, but they know about the expenses. They know about the day-to-day expenses, and so my husband doesn't want to come to the class. So we take this opportunity to tell them, this is the time for you to invest in yourself, use this class to learn, and hopefully bring that husband next time or, talk to him some more. And most of them do talk to their spouses, whatever spouse that is, and that discussion is made, but it's a process. You have to keep checking in with that person. Our old extension specialist would meet with his wife monthly and have those discussions. And would set time every Saturday, once a month on Saturday to talk to his wife about things. And my husband, wow, that's a lot to talk to me about. But your expenses change throughout your life, so you need to be on the same page with them.
All right. Okay. Folks in the audience, are there questions that you all have? All right.
Oh, sure. So I'm Julia Tanner. I'm the chair of the Commission on Stats of Women here in Arlington. And what a wonderful panel. This has been great. It's very educational. So I have hopefully an easy question, which is once you do not have an income coming in any longer, how does one apply for a credit card if one's husband has this and is named on the account? Fortunately, not the situation, but I imagine that is going to be a situation for people. So, and Karen spoke about this, so I'm wondering if she can answer.
How does one apply? One applies. This is where building and managing great credit comes into play. Credit scoring models are changing for the better, I think. Credit scoring models traditionally were inherently biased, and so some of the new credit scoring models are including things like rent payments and cable payments and utility bills. So it is possible even after retirement to manage and maintain a great credit score even though you're not repaying debt. So that's one thing that I would say. The other thing is not all financial institutions are the same. Some are very matrix-sized in terms of how they evaluate and view debt, and others, particularly like smaller community banks, will really listen to hear the story and understand, and then can evaluate the risk. And also having, so savings is the theme tonight, right? So having money in savings also is helpful if you no longer have an income. Thanks for the question.
All right.
Hi, I'm Sharon Zakula, and I'm involved in AAUW in Falls Church. And I discovered that I had a job when my husband passed away, and I had my own savings and my own account. But one of the things that I discovered was, I don't remember whether it was Washington Gas or Dominion Electric, that when he passed away, even though I was the one who opened all the accounts, they said, basically, we've got an old system and we only have room for one name. And whenever there's a man and a woman's name, we always put the man's name.
Whoa.
So and the reason I cared about it was because they're saying, well, you're opening a new account for the same place,
Right.
the same house. And so you have to pay that first time fee for us to come out, even though I've been paying the bill for 15 years. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know if it exists as a problem anymore, but when you said check to see whether you are actually a party to the account,
Mm-hmm.
or whether you just have like user privileges, it made me think about that.
Mhm.
Having a conversation later about what kinds of other accounts that may be that issue. So I'm sorry, it's not a question.
It's a good comment.
That's
though.
a great tale,
Yes.
though. I had
Yeah.
not heard that about the utility companies before, but it doesn't surprise me.
Just a little disheartening.
Hi, my name is Cindy Pasca. So you talked about financial advisors and helping you establish guidelines, budgets, planning, long-term planning. What if you keep your money with a variety of financial advisors? How does the financial advisor look at all of the components when you may not be sharing all of those components because you have certain
It's a great question.
finances that you want to have established in different places?
It's a very, very, is this on?
Push it up. There you go.
Push what up? This up?
It is up.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah. Pretty
Um,
close.
So my group, I'm a financial planner in our group, and we also have people in our group that do the actual portfolio management. We feel that it's very important to know what your total picture is. We do a financial plan before we do any investing, and many of our clients don't have all of their assets with us, but we need to know what they have. So we do know what they have. So you can't act in a vacuum, in a silo, because that doesn't work. I mean, the old style stockbroker, yes, they would bring your account and they'd build positions in account and stocks and stuff, but they wouldn't necessarily know what else you had out there. It's very important to know what the whole picture is. What all the accounts you have, are they IRAs or are they taxable accounts? Are you gonna have a pension or you're not gonna have a pension? All of those things are, and then the big thing, how much you spend, that's really the question that drives the financial plan. So that's how you do it. You have to tell somebody what you have, because not telling if you just keep it a secret, I don't want you to know what I have over there at that other guy. It's like, well, then good luck. So.
Okay.
Back there too.
Hello, my name is Ingrid Beavers. So, for the Badger Point, so, what advice would you give to someone who doesn't have kids, for long-term care? Because, we have at different levels, like you said, different age groups. What would you tell them to do right now in their 40s?
Specifically regarding long-term care, or?
Well, for your future,
Mhm.
because they're
It's okay.
Because, because you do have long-term care, but what other things would you tell them to do, so you can get prepared because, unfortunately, sometimes, you may not have someone there to take care of you.
Oh,
You're alone.
well, right. So that is where long-term care insurance can come in. So again, it's all part of a big cog. I mean, it's how much are you saving, and just continue to increase your saving and work as long as you can. We tell people, your question, I didn't want to answer the first question about what do we think is going to happen, because what I tell people is there are so many things we can't control. We can't control the stock market. We can't control inflation, but we can control how long we work, mostly, how much we save, and how much we spend. So focus on the things that you can control, and the rest of it will hopefully just work out.
So sorry, we had a couple of questions on Zoom, so.
Okay, I was gonna-
We can address
Some
them
questions over there.
And Zoom.
Just one more question that somebody had asked that I wanted to ask Tara about while we were, before we get too far away from it, but about starting your own business and planning for your future and doing that whole package. I mean, that's enormous. It's one thing to have your salary to depend on, but how do you, as you're starting a business, what can you do to ensure some stability in your life as you're waiting for your returns?
Yes.
You got a Zoom, oh, she's got the.
That's a great question. And it's a tough one.
Answer it.
And I'm like coming up with my strategy. Exactly. For a lot of folks, and I don't know if this is commonly known, but most people that start a business are usually in their 50s.
50s?
Yes, 40s and 50s.
Wow.
Because they have worked for, I used to say man, but I'll say they'll work for the person.
Yeah.
And they've decided that they're ready to move on. And they're subject matter experts in their field and industry, and they feel like they're able to offer. So they've done a lot of the 401k savings, their kids have gone through college, and now they have the financial means to take the risk and savings to help them. And so that's typically what we see. And so it's really what we encourage is to ensure that if you're younger, in your 20s and 30s, that you're not drawing from your savings or your 401k, and that there are other assets that you can build or some debt equity that you can partake, or low-hanging fruit where it makes more sense. Because you have to really look at that individual's full picture and what they have, whether they're independently wealthy, which will get a lot of serial entrepreneurs that start, or we'll get somebody that has a dream of starting a business and they might not understand the industry. And for those people, I tell them, go work in that industry, get some background and understanding behind the scenes, and then go out and start. So like what you're doing throughout is minimizing the risk, so you're really taking a calculated strategy to advance and grow. And you'll see that those numbers across the country. It's the average age of new startups is 40, 50. And it's people, especially you also have military that retire a lot at 42. And they're like, what am I gonna do for the rest of my life? But they have a lot of transferable skills, and there's a lot of resources that they can tap into. So we see that quite a bit. But everything is very deliberate and thought out and invested and looked at before you take that leap of faith.
Good plan. Okay. Thank you for waiting.
Okay, thank you. So we had the first question from Carol, and it was, what budgeting tools or apps do you recommend for like budgets?
So I don't have one off the top of my head. I'm happy to collect those resources and we can send it out later. Oh, Libby has one.
We have a budgeting tool in our app, and I think a lot of the banks and credit union apps themselves use it.
Start over.
I'm gonna start over. I was just making a note. I'm Libby Smith from Arlington Community Credit Union. I'm a colleague of Karen's. We have a budgeting tool in our banking app, and I think a lot of
the banks and credit unions have one right in there. I don't know a specific one. I know Mint used to be really popular. There's just a lot of consolidation in the industry, and I'm not sure what the current ones are. But I know that a lot of the financial institutions offer that as a tool right within their own app. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question was, it's two questions actually, and it's from Yvonne. And it's, what should women in their 60s and 70s be concerned about as the brick and mortar financial institutions limit footprints and go online? And the second question is, if you're a solo ager and know no one to leave assets to or to make a beneficiary, what are your alternatives?
I think we answered that.
Okay, I'll take the first one and then I might need you to repeat the second one.
Yeah.
So the first one is what can older populations do as branches are going away? Branches aren't going away fast, so they're going to be around for a while. You may start to see less of them, like less density in branching networks, but they're not going away. I think the question might be, like the real question might be, how can I get help using online tools? And I think that's a really important one. I worry about that for our older populations because it can be confusing. I mean, I get confused sometimes, right? So the good news is every financial institution, usually the member service people or the customer service people are very willing to teach and help. Most financial institutions will have little classes on how to use those tools. There are a lot of online tutorials on how to use those tools, so I think it's just a combination of both. The other thing that I will say is somebody, I think it was Aisha, was talking about elder abuse and abuse of power of attorneys. That is a growing problem. It's a tremendous problem. It's just a fact that people get a little more confused, cognitively, like I'm not as sharp as I was in my 20s and I won't be in my 80s, right? I think also most financial institutions will allow you to add a trusted contact to the account, which is not someone who actually has access to your money, but someone that the financial institution can contact if you need help. And sometimes those trusted contacts can also be people that can help guide you and take you to the bank. And they, usually the banking people will be allowed to interact with them and talk to them. So I mean, that's just a fact of life too. Sometimes you just need help going to the bank as you get older. So hopefully that answers it. And I'm not sure if that next question, who that was
I wasn't, can you repeat the second question again?
I think it kind of goes into this one. So it's, if you're the solo ager and know no one to leave assets to or to make a beneficiary, then what are your alternatives?
That is such a good question. I think you can answer that.
I mean, like, who do you leave the money to if you don't have anybody to leave the money to?
No, so like I have a friend. So if you're aging and you are alone and you don't have children, how do you set up a plan so that someone will take care of you and your money when you're not able to if you're alone? That's your question.
Wasn't the question also about leaving your assets to someone, so maybe setting
Yes.
There you go.
Leaving assets is easier.
Yes, leaving your assets is an easier question. I mean, if you're at all charitably inclined, you leave it to charity, right? I mean, that's really, if that's really the question, that's really what your options are. You can either leave all of your money to charity or you can leave it to the government. So you can, I would leave it to charity. And if you have a choice, if you've got a mix of types of accounts, if you have IRAs and you also have brokerage accounts and you don't really have anybody you want to leave it to other than a charity, or maybe you have a charity and a favorite niece, you want to leave the IRA to the charity, because the IRA doesn't have to pay any taxes on any of those distributions. Leave the taxable account or a Roth IRA, because you don't have to pay taxes on that either. Leave the brokerage accounts to the people, because that's a much better asset to inherit. I would much rather inherit a brokerage account from somebody than a big old IRA, because the big old IRA is just a huge tax liability.
One last question on Zoom, and then we'll go back to in person. I'm so sorry. We had a solo ager in my condo. what is the best way to go about finding a financial planner? What are some of the qualities to look for?
Good question.
How to find a great financial planner.
I would think some of it might be by referral. I know we do get a lot of clients these days by referral.
So I would also say, and you would agree with this, Anne, that financial planners, come in all different shapes and sizes, so to speak. They have different philosophies and different personalities, and so it is a very best practice to interview a few of them and find out who you're comfortable with so that you can pick someone that you feel like you can relate to and communicate with.
Yes.
It's really important because it's a trusted relationship,
Yes.
right? Like you want to have trust with that person, so.
Yes.
So I work with elderly people, and I see a lot of they're not either educated about being at home, and when they see that statement coming from whoever's providing care for them, it's a big. I mean, we're talking a lot of money when people are at home and they're getting taken care of. So as a financial advisor, starting right now because we're getting older and we're seeing, we're like in our 80s or 90s, are you preparing them to educate them and save a certain amount of money for home care or whatever they need? Because right now, the generation that I have, they're pretty shocked and they're running out of money. And it's really sad because they don't have any other help.
I'm going to see if Aisha has anything to say about that.
Do you have something to say about that?
Can I rephrase the question? I think I need it. So just to clarify, you're asking some individuals that are older, they're running out of money, they're realizing the costs for being taken care of, like what should they do?
Yeah, at this stage at home, are we preparing them, the future generation that's gonna be there, like myself,
Okay.
as a financial advisor, to prepare me for that, not just for my retirement, but I'm also gonna be looking at, just in case anything happens to me, like dementia or Alzheimer's and stuff.
So how to compare
Yeah.
current individuals that might be eating down
Because
the road?
Medicare doesn't help them.
No.
Medicare is not helping, stay at home. It's just, you have to qualify for Medicaid. Look what happened to the private industry that are paying out of money.
It's a terrible problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can't fully answer that one just because I have not, I'll be honest, I've not done enough research in it. But yeah, Susan made a point. You have to realize the cost, and it varies state by state too, how expensive it is for that to be long-term care or any resources. For those that are currently in the situation and finding that they cannot pay for things, there is financial assistance through the county or other resources. The local area agency on aging is a great resource. And then there's within the Department of Human Services, there's resources. In terms of individuals that want to think about down the road how to save or what they can do, start thinking ahead, looking at your budget, evaluate what you have. Please, anybody step in at any time.
Well, and there's a new type of, many states, and I believe Virginia is one, have started, you can buy a long-term care policy that if you buy it and you pay for it and you need care and you run through all the money, you will not have to go into Medicaid spend down.
Right.
It's kind of a bargain. It's a contract you go in with the state. So I don't know tons about it and they're relatively new, but that would be something to consider. Because you're right, custodial care is not covered by Medicare at all, and to switch over to Medicaid means spending down all of your assets, and that's a whole different situation. And I guess one thing that you mentioned, living at home, a lot of people don't realize, a lot of people are bound and determined to never move. But if you need care in your home, it can be much more expensive than if you move to a nice assisted living place or something. It's because 24/7 care at home is extraordinarily expensive.
I just wanted to add something.
the woman who asked about, the audience member who asked about what to do with one's assets if one doesn't have people who are looking for employment. I work for an accounting firm, I just wanted to add that we've seen times when people made their bank or financial institution, there are times when people have made their bank or financial institution the executor of their will. And so if you have everything in trust or jointly owned, and then you have the bank that's going to be the executor of your will, that can actually be super helpful.
Okay, we have one last question in the back. Trying to.
Hi, I'm Barbara Johnson. I'm a commissioner as well. Thank you. This was really informative. So I have two, I think, quick related questions that are geared towards my young adult children. They only want to use Venmo. How is that different, better, worse than credit or debit cards? I think I understand, I'm not quite sure. And then a lot of the advice seems geared towards people who have jobs that offer a savings plan of some sort, insurance, a match. A lot of jobs, including the one I'm in now, just don't have that. So if you have any advice, I'm fine because I've worked in big corporate world for 20 years, but it's made me realize how much I took for granted that I, had all the nice things. So if you have any advice for people who, I think a lot of young people are starting off in jobs like that. So that's all. Nice and easy, right?
Anyone?
You want to take the Venmo one? That's.
Venmo.
What I'll say about Venmo is, everybody uses Venmo. It's obviously it's not insured, right? So, a checking account, a savings account, you are protected by government insurance up to $250,000. So there's that. You don't have the chargeback protections on Venmo. So if you accidentally send the money to someone else, it can be gone. It's happened to me personally before. It's not easy to get it back at a bank or a financial institution, a bank or a credit union. You have chargeback rights to that money. When kids are young and they only have a couple $100 in their Venmo account, it might not be as impactful, but as they age and need to keep larger balances in those accounts, it's far better to have an insured account backing you. Just earlier this week, the CFPB, I should know what it stands for.
Yeah.
Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, I should know because they are a big part of my life. A big part of banking regulation. The CFPB just came out with a warning earlier this week cautioning people not to keep money in their Venmo, PayPal, Cash App accounts because for this very reason, it's far better to keep it in an insured institution. So, it's the best advice I have. I know young people don't really always listen to our advice in that regard because it's quick and it's easy and it's fun and it's a great way to transfer money between people. So,
and I'll address the question about if you don't have a retirement plan or insurance. Anybody that's got earned income can still put money in an IRA. So you can do that even if you don't have a retirement account. And the limits on deducting that IRA contribution are actually higher if you're not covered by a retirement account. So you can still do that. And if you don't have one, then you just have to save somewhere else. That's all there is to it. You just have to save in a regular taxable account. You can't say, I don't have a 401k and I just can't do it. No, you have to do something else. Because eventually you will be retired and no one has a pension anymore, and you have to save the money. You have to start young.
I just want to make another point too. It is a savers market right now. We have not been in a savings environment for years and years and years. And again, there are a lot of products out there that can help you save. You don't need a large minimum deposit to open a certificate of deposit anymore. Lots of financial institutions have like an incremental certificate savings account where you can start with $25 and be earning 4% and 5% interest even on low balances. So, we're in a recessionary environment, we're in an inflationary environment. It's hard to save, but it is also the very best time to save right now.
Yes.
I had two super quick questions. I'm also going to be 25 this year. So this is very informative for me as I'm figuring out life, and adulting is way harder than I thought it was. So my first question was, how old do you have to be to get a financial planner? And then two, how much, like, so I'm thankful that I have a great job at Arlington County Investment Center. And I want to know, like, what's a good percentage out of my paycheck that you would encourage me to save? Because obviously I do get my nails done every month. I'm not gonna lie. I need to get my nails done. I have to get my nails actually this weekend because they're so bad. But I still save. But I would love to know, like, what's a good bare minimum amount, or just a good amount that I should just push myself to do.
Okay, quick answer. Awesome question.
So the earlier you start, the less that percentage needs to be. If you start off now and you start off with 3-4% and you keep that up for the rest of your life, then you're not going to be the person that's 57 years old and comes to us and says, oh gosh, now we're going to take a look at our financial plan. And they have to save 15-20% of their income because they didn't save it back then. So start with what you can. Again, just 3-4% and try to increase it every time you get a raise.
And how old do you have to be?
Oh, you're old enough. I mean, I mean.
There's no ID?
There's no, I mean, I will say it's a little difficult. Companies like ours, people your age don't come to us because the way we operate is just different. But there are plenty of things online that you can find, these robo-advisors that everybody is afraid of. I think they're great for people your age. You can do all sorts of modeling, and it's like, okay, if I save this much and it earns this percent, how much am I going to have in 5 years? Yeah. You can easily see that kind of thing.
Really good question.
And really last question, Barbara.
I'm Barbara Smith. I'm the American Association of American Women. I just wanted to say that one thing we haven't talked about as a savings vehicle is Social Security. So everybody pretty much has to pay into it. So I would recommend for young people to make sure that you are working in a job that is covered by Social Security. Because Social Security offers not only retirement benefits, disability benefits, spousal benefits, and survivor benefits. I would also recommend that you set up a My Social Security account, and therefore you can check online what you can expect to receive if you plan at 62 through age 70. Also what you can expect to receive with survivor benefits, spousal benefits.
Yeah.
All right, good point. Susan, did you want to say something?
I just.
And then we're going to close out.
Yeah, thank you.
I did have one question, or are you gonna?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Well,
so this has been super informative, and thank you all for doing this. I had two quick questions. One was, like, how much would a financial advisor cost? Like, because I'm just starting out a new job, and it's always good to know how much you're going to be spending, even though it's an investment. And the other thing is, like, one thing I feel like you talked about good debt, bad debt, and one thing when you're early career or just like in your young ages, it's like buying a house or renting a house. And one thing I always wonder is, like, do you buy land in this country, or is it like you just buy a house and hope for developers to take care of it? And is that like recommended? I don't know if it's like far off, but it's just something I was wondering if it's not too much. Thank you.
Okay. Susan.
I just wanted to add.
Well, are you going to answer? Someone needs to answer it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Unless you want to answer it.
It's so funny.
So your question about
it doesn't work out.
do you buy land and then, is that what your question was? Do most people buy land and build a house? Well, you can. I personally wouldn't want to build a house, but I would. Is that kind of the question?
More like how much would a financial advisor cost?
Oh, that question. Yes. So you know what? Unfortunately, it's stacked against most people that do what I do. We charge a fee for assets under management, which means for people like you guys starting out, that doesn't work very well. So it's not a good model. So there's something called the Garrett Financial Planning Network, and they do fee-only planning. And when I say fee-only, they charge a fee for it. But you could work with somebody like that, who's not necessarily going to say, okay, well, how much money do you have to give me to invest? Because that's how we make our money, but you guys are just starting out. So I would look at something like that.
I would also add that I think there's a step before financial planners, like when you're starting out, lots of financial institutions have financial counseling or well, not credit counseling, because that's really something different, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But financial counseling programs where they will help you at your ages, you have sort of immediate goals, right? You're trying to save some money, you're trying to maybe save for a down payment on a house and purchase your first home. They're pretty specific, simple goals, and so you can work with, or you're trying to build a credit score so that you can effectively, apply for debt. Those are things that a financial counseling program can help you with. And then once you get a little strong and a little strength on your balance sheet, then you call people like Ann.
That's it.
Yeah, the other way. I just said something.
I just wanted to add that we have 3 financial coaching.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
That's the answer. That's the answer.
So our volunteers, some of them are financial planners, some of them are not, some of them just have an interest in certain topics. So they can talk to you about different things, about budget, how to manage student loans, like how to save for a home, that kind of thing. And then the other thing is we do have some programs lined up. We're in the middle of finalizing them, but we'll have a money talk, financial series for women at Columbia Pike Library in the fall, and then at Central Library we'll have an Adulting 101 financial series that we're working on.
Oh, that's great.
That's perfect. That's what you guys
That's what you want.
Okay.
Adulting 101.
Go. It's on.
I just want to add one thing. This panel, if nothing else, has shown all of us, whether we're younger, middle-aged, approaching retirement, to ask questions. Find out what you don't know before you have to know it.
Yes.
It's really important. And that's between whether you're a couple, parent, child. Look into various alternatives and rely on yourself, because that's what it gets down to.
Yeah.
All right, we have finished our questions. We had one more question, but I think we got the answer. Each one of you asking one piece of advice: save. Be cautious. Get support. Become educated. Know what you're talking about. Get a community to help you. So, thank you, all of you. This has been very helpful. I took lots of notes, and I saw people of all ages taking notes. So, this has been an opportunity for us to learn, and hopefully we will continue to learn and grow from what we've heard tonight. So thank you all again. It's been very informative. Thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Miller.